Tom. Let me edit this. Edit. There we go. Perfect. There we go. All right, now we saved it. Let me update that. Edit. There we go. Delete. All right, now we're good. What's going on, everyone? What's going on? What's going on? How'd everyone do today? Today was just a beautiful day, don't you guys think? I gotta say, it was just a beautiful day. You just pretty much saw a waterfall in this market. It was just looking like paint drying on a wall. I think Avery wanted to shoot himself. We saw that he was just he posted a meme with just rolling around in a chair. That was just hilarious. Just thought I'd point that out. But other than that, hopefully no one pretty much got hammered today. I hope you guys actually made it out safe. You guys didn't close out red. By the way, can anyone hear me? Testing, testing. You guys can hear me, right? You guys can hear me, right? Testing, testing. Someone say yes. Oh, okay, perfect. All right, I just want to hear that yes. All right, perfect. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. So today, yeah, it was just pretty much a very slow day. Pretty much the trades that I took was I did scalp Tesla. That was the one trade that I ended up taking, and I also made a move on Boeing. Now, as far as my overnight trade that I actually took, I am actually holding a small position in Boeing. That's that's a small position I'm holding. It's a very small position because I didn't want to get caught in the crossfire of tech right now as we are. However, we are expecting to bounce at this point in time, despite how futures do look right now. We were expected to bounce tomorrow, and obviously you've seen that we can have a big swing overnight, even when we're down about 80 something points on Nasdaq. So it is possible despite how it looks right now. So keep that in mind. But tomorrow we're expected to bounce. So but at the same time, we're holding a key level. And if we do end up breaking this key level tomorrow morning, that's where I meant that I don't want to be in that crossfire of another, waterfall for that matter. Facebook was an insane move down today. That all that news, the whistleblower news, I mean, they just got demolished. I'm seeing levels of puts down to like the 300 level. And if you guys remember, that's actually where the stock actually broke out when it made its massive run. And I do have that one, which I'll get to the chart on that. But I just wanted to point out the key level on NASDAQ. And if you actually see, I do have it highlighted in the corner here, these blue numbers. So pretty much what I was actually looking at today was a descending expanding wedge for that matter. And as you see, it actually broke my support level, but we're actually holding right above it right now on Nasdaq futures. Okay, so I do want to see if it's actually going to hold above this support line. If it doesn't, that's when I think that things are going to get a little messy, in which we're going to drop below that level of that 14,395, in which that's really the level which you see both of these bodies of these candles are actually holding at that key level. And so if we break that key level, that's when things are going to get messy again tomorrow, and we're going to see some more paint dry on the wall. All right, and that's where you want to stay a little bit sidelined today, or you hopefully if you're in puts, that ends up paying tomorrow. But it is a 50-50 chance going into tomorrow because of the key spot that we're in with Nasdaq. All right, so you're better off actually getting Dow stocks for that matter, like the names which I'll pretty much touch bases on that I actually do like. Trying to avoid tech for right now until we get the confirmation of the reversal tomorrow. Okay, but if we end up do getting the bounce, I'm looking at that bounce going up to 14,583, 14,587, in which you see this gray line right in the middle of that wedge. That's where the bounce is that I'm going to be looking for if we get some kind of relief rally here tomorrow. Otherwise, if we end up breaking down, I'm looking at breaking down to my first support level will be 14,332. And if things really do get messy below that, then we're looking at 14,154. on Nasdaq futures. Okay, so that's why I laid out my levels, and we'll see as they break, as they hold, and that's where I would determine whether this is a bounce zone. If it gets to 14,313 and we get the bounce, that'll be where I play that small bounce. I'll get a nice little scalp. Otherwise, if we end up breaking down, then of course that's going to be where I get into puts, and I'll write it down to 14,154 for that next key level. Okay. The sad part was that the bleed out today actually caught us a little bit off guard because of the rally that we saw on Friday. We had a really strong rally in which SPY moved 7+ points, right? And we actually expected a continuation this morning before any kind of downfall, before any kind of volatility like we saw today. That wasn't the case. I know that Avery was also thinking a little bit of the same. We would at least get some kind of morning push before we ended up even going down as we did today. That wasn't the case. And so by the time that we realized that, how fast we were falling and trying to buy the dip, it was already down so much that at that point, you don't want to chase that move down. And that was the problem with today because as you saw by 10 o'clock in the morning, you were already bleeding out heavily. And that's where you don't want to get caught in the reversal because obviously we've seen how reversals take place so quickly and you will see a V-shaped recovery within a matter of minutes. And that's what I think the thought process was between me and Avery. We already missed the initial move. And so we didn't want to chase the move down. So now what we will be looking for is to see, what the bounce is tomorrow if we get one. And then we'll take advantage of that to short the market if be the case. Right? So that's the thought process that I wanted to just lay out for you guys. But as far as Nasdaq, that's why I had the key levels outlined. So keep in mind those key three levels that I have noted for the bounce and then the two support levels below. Now going on to S&P futures, we look a little bit better here. We have a little bit of a falling wedge. If you guys actually remember, if I zoom out, we had that massive ascending channel. And as we ended up breaking down, we ended up retesting, and now we're just continuing to make lower lows, lower highs. And so you basically ended up creating somewhat of a falling wedge off the 4 hour here. And so I want to see it hold above this zone right here. If I zoom out, you see the zone that I have highlighted, which I would say is like my supply zone right now. I want to see it hold above 42.52. That's the level that I want to see us hold above. And so if we hold above that level, then I think that we can get a nice bounce. And that's what I'm going to be looking at. If we end up breaking that 42.52, then it's going to follow NASDAQ and likely we're going to see a lot more blood than what futures is just showing right now, as far as pretty much NASDAQ down about 40 something points. Okay. So keep that in mind. That 42.52 level is really my key level that I want to see us hold. If we don't hold that, then it's going to get messy. And that's when we're going to enter into the zone. And then our next level of support would be right around here, in which that's around 42.30. Around 42.30, which is another 20-point drop here on S&P futures. So that's kind of the key levels on what I'm looking at. We'll see what happens by morning, and then we'll have an updated levels by morning. And so we want to see what futures actually do by morning. And then, of course, we'll be on live trading and giving out those key levels, myself or Avery or Sig. And we'll be giving out those key levels to see where we end up going down below that. But that's the key level that I have right in mind right now. And I'll take a look at this a little bit more in detail by morning. All right. The other name that stood out, of course, and I'm sure that everyone, if you weren't in this name, you saw it this morning, gap up pre-market, despite how market actually looked this morning. But it made a phenomenal push into resistance. And that's what I actually didn't like this morning. It made a nice push right into the resistance of the channel. And once I saw that it ended up rejecting that, that's when I got into puts and I scalped it. Right. So that's what you're actually looking at is especially if you see it actually rejected here, it rejected again here, and it rejected here. If you actually remember before, that was on Thursday or Friday when we actually had Super Fortuna actually hit on this, and it was actually putting for bullish calls. I was pointing out the fact that we ended up breaking down on every wedge that we had. If you guys remember me pointing that chart out. And so that's why you're actually looking at what patterns are developing, what levels are actually rejecting it. As you see, again, like I reiterate, that resistance line it rejected off of now 3 times, actually 4 times. One, two, three, four, oh, 5 times. Okay, so 5 times rejecting that resistance line, and that's what actually caught my attention to know that to short that, and with the market conditions, and that's why I enabled that. I scaled into it, and I got a nice little small position. I didn't go in heavy on anything today at all. You keep it light and you just let it run if it be the case, and that's what it was. And so I'm gonna look to see if we're gonna get a nice little move back up to the resistance. I want to see us get back up to this level around that 796, and then we'll make that push over that 800 if market conditions are ideal tomorrow. If we can't get to over the 796 and make that push to 800, then we're likely coming back down. In which my next key support level would be right around 769, and so that might be about another close enough to a 20-point drop. Okay. And that will likely happen if market conditions continue to bleed out as we see them right now. Okay. So that's Tesla for you. I'm actually waiting for it to break that support level on this channel. If it indeed does, and I think market would actually need to bleed out a lot more for it to end up crashing on this ascending channel. But if it ends up breaking this ascending channel, that's where it's going to get a lot more interesting. And we're going to be able to have fun shorting this. For right now, you saw today it was showing a lot of relative strength, but then the market just continued to drag it down just to being up about 5 points. Okay. Next one I was looking at, which I already outlined QQQ. We went through NASDAQ futures. PayPal was one that I actually had on site today. I actually got in before. This is actually another trade that I actually did take. I got into this one before Fortuna signals actually went off. There was about 2 or 3 signals that went off on Fortuna. And so I ended up getting in on this one. And when I actually saw Fortuna go off, I was like, that's when I got excited because I was not expecting Fortuna to go off. But again, key levels are where the biggest thing is that I wanted to reiterate is, as you see, this is a very key support level that we're at. You hit it about twice, 2 or 3 times here. You anchored right in the middle, and then you bounce off of it right here again. And so that's when I ended up taking that position right around that 252 level. I got in on that, and I took that ride right up to about 254. I sold out right before that it hit 255, and that was just a small scalp that I ended up taking. And so that's where you get those small, quick percentages off the Fortuna signals. And I took those quick. I think it was about a quick 25, 26% that I ended up getting out of that. And that was a quick move. But just like Tesla, where you saw the resistance that it rejected, this is the same thing. You're looking at the support level to see where it's going to hold. And that's the support level that I ended up bouncing off of. And I got that entry right on the bounce. Okay. So I just wanted to show you that one. This one, it could have continuation tomorrow, but market conditions, again, will impact that decision. Okay. Another one was Boeing. This is the one that I actually also took a position in today. And I actually posted this one on my Twitter. I'm going to look to re-enter this tomorrow if indeed that we end up getting this break. I'm hoping that we get that break. It could be possible that S&P actually holds up and Nasdaq just pretty much slightly red, in which we are in oversold territory for Nasdaq. But I'm actually looking for this to break out. If once we break out, then I'm looking for that level around that 230, and then we're going into that gap fill if we get over that 230 level, in which this gap fill is going to be right around that 233, 234 level. That will get a nice push right out of that. Right. So keep that one on watch for tomorrow. I did post that one on my Twitter. It's at the top of my watch list tomorrow. Nvidia was also one that I was watching, but this is more so for a short. As you see, we broke the trendline support that we had. We ended up retesting it. And then now we're just pretty much in an indecisive candle right here. But if we end up continuing to break down, I want to see this get down to that 187 level, and which that'll be where I will know that I will short this if we see market weakness tomorrow. So this is one that I will keep on watch for tech if it continues to bleed. Next one I had on my list was Disney. I wanted to point out Disney because this one actually had a double bottom. So I want to see if S&P holds up tomorrow, what this will do because we did have a double bottom right around that 169 level, that low 169. So I want to see this get a nice little continuation to the up towards resistance. And that's what I'm going to be watching. If you would say this is a little bit of a descending triangle. And that's what I want to see, that continuation off of that double bottom as support there. So I will keep this one on watch. If S&P holds up, then of course Disney and Boeing are the first two that I want to look at, uh, aside from tech, right? So those are the two that I want to look at for that matter. Also, Nike was one that I posted on my Twitter. I believe yesterday I posted this one. If anyone remembers, we had a nice little double bottom formation right here, right around that 144 level. We had a nice little double bottom. Now, the interesting part about this one is that you have a massive gap up, and then you're already in the gap fill below. So you're in a very awkward range right now in which you can actually bounce back up to break above this level, right above that 146 level to fill the gap up, or you can continue to fill the gap down. So this one's a very indecisive level, but that double bottom is telling me that it's likely going to get some kind of bounce in which we get right back up to at least to the 158 mark before either we end up continuing to fill that gap down. So that double bottom, I want to see how we get some kind of continuation off of that double bottom, and that's what I'll keep an eye on for tomorrow as well. And as you notice, I'm trying to avoid tech. The names that I do have on for tech are Facebook and Nasdaq for the downside. Okay, so this is where I'm looking to see if there's going to be any strength in the S&P tomorrow, despite how Nasdaq may be. Another one is Starbucks. I'm looking at this one also. You had a nice little double bottom as well here, right around the mid 110 mark, 110.54. And so I want to see the continuation off of this move as well, and we can get a nice push towards resistance on this falling wedge. So keep an eye on that one as well. And then the last one was GM. GM actually held up despite the market conditions. It held up like Tesla did. And this was actually a newsletter play. They also have an event that they're actually going to be revealing as well. I have to take a look at the event. I wasn't certain what day it was, but I'll get a post and I'll post it out in premium chat for everyone. But this is one I actually want to see the continuation going into tomorrow as well, because I want to see if we can get a nice little push right back into the gap fill. As you see, we wicked right into it. So I want to get right back into that gap fill right about that 54, 55.44. Okay. 55.45, I apologize. So I want to see us get right back into that gap fill, and we can make a nice little push right towards 57 if market conditions are ideal. Okay. But those are the ones, very small watch list for right now. Tech all aside right now, I want to see what it does tomorrow. But the two names that I will be looking to short if there is weakness in tech tomorrow will be Facebook and Nvidia. Those are the two that are pretty much at the top of my watch list to short. Funny thing is today actually I did see a lot of call volume for AMD, Apple, and Amazon. So those three actually stood out quite a bit. So it looks like it could have been retail investors that were really just buying it up uh, rather than hedge funds. So that's going to be the interesting part. A lot of them were a little bit towards November calls that I actually saw. So they're not necessarily short dated. So that's something that I'm going to keep an eye on. Just keep a notice on that. And then other than that, that kind of wraps up the session for tonight, guys. We'll see what futures do tomorrow. I'm not liking how it's looking right now. Nasdaq down about 40 something points. S&P about down about close to 20 points. So we'll see if we get a nice little rebound tomorrow. That's what we're hoping for tomorrow. But it's not looking too good right now. So if you're in any long positions, especially tech, and you're already at a very hard stop loss, that's going to be very tight. If you're down about 50%, that's pretty much a decision where you need to know if what to cut your position or not. If we continue to bleed as this. Hopefully you actually cut your positions. If you had any tech positions, you cut it this morning right away, and you took whatever loss it was there. But this is where you have to be really cautious. Don't try to just buy the dip blindly because you will get hurt right now. Wait for a confirmation. Wait for us to say something on live in which, we're really confident in making a move into tech. As you saw, Oracle actually went off today. That was QQQ puts. And so that's also something working against the upside as well because there was heavy buying. If I'm not mistaken, the expiration was October 15th, and that's something that's actually been coming through for quite a few weeks was puts towards October 15th. And so we'll see whether that has to do with something with the debt ceiling, whether it be with the bond yield, or it could also be with the tapering. So someone's buying October 15th for a specific reason. We have about another week or so to see that play out for that downside, see that Oracle play out. But likely, if we are gonna continue to go down, I'm expecting some kind of news if we really do end up bleeding out further than what we have already. Okay, keep that in mind. But again, just keep your position small. That's the best thing I can say right now. Like today, I went in small with Tesla, I went in small with Boeing, and my scalp on PayPal was very minimal. So keep it small right now. That's the best thing I can say right now. Preserve the cash and wait for some kind of bottom or wait for the reversal confirmation before you enter into any big size positions. Okay, guys? But other than that, that kind of wraps up session tonight. We'll see you guys on live tomorrow. But you guys have a good night then, all right?